Hi all, welcome back to our channel. I'm back with another front-end interview challenge. This interview question was asked at Apple company. Okay, the problem is fetch keys from nested object or array. Given a function that takes a deeply nested object or array and returns all key paths that point to primitive values. The executed output should list all the flattened key paths. For example, let's take this as input. The output should be like this. That means the key path for primitive value 1 is a dot b dot c. In the similar way, the key path for primitive value 2 here is a dot d. And for 3, it's simply e. In the similar way, let's say if the input is an array, nested array, the key path should be 0 for primitive value 1 because it's at index 0. And then the key path for 2 value is 1 dot a because this entire object is at index 1. So index is 1 and then the key is a, 1 dot a. For 3 is it's 1 dot b dot again index 0. In the similar way for key value for primitive value 4, the key path is 1 dot b dot 1, and then for 5 it's index 2. Okay, for this we should design a program which should return all flattened key paths for a given nested object or array. Let's start designing the program. For this, let me create a function that is get deep paths, which takes object, either it's an array or object as an argument, and then current path which is defaulted to empty. Okay, this is the function which takes 2 arguments. Now let me create a paths array or initialize empty array to collect all paths. Okay, for that const paths equal to an empty array, and then now we have to design an helper function to check or to identify primitive values. Okay, primitive values are null, undefined, strings, numbers, booleans. They are the primitive values. Everything else, objects, arrays are non-primitive. Okay, let me create a function to identify primitive values. This is an helper function, okay, for which we pass value to check or to identify primitive. So which returns return if value equals to null or value equals to undefined or type of value not equals to object. Okay, this is to check or to identify primitive value. Now the next thing is, let's handle array objects. Let's handle array objects. If the value passed is an array, let's check for condition if it's array. Okay, the passed argument, that is object or obj, is array. So what we have to do is we build path by adding array index. If we are at the root level, the path is just the index. If we are nested, append index to the current path, there is existing path with dot. Okay, let me check that, or let me design the code for that. That is object dot for each. We should use for each loop to loop through all elements of array. Okay, where item comma index. Okay, item comma index. Here let's check for constant new path equals to, if we are at the root level, that means if current path is empty, that means current path is empty, or if it's not empty, that means we are nested. What we have to do is we simply append the existing path with dot. Okay, and then index. For that, dollar current path, let's copy this, and then put dot. After that, again dollar index. Okay, this is if we are at the nested path. Okay, if we are at root level, what we do is we simply return index as path. Okay, we simply return index as path. Now after getting the new path, what we have to do is we should verify whether the current item is primitive or not. For that, if, and then use the is primitive helper function here. Is primitive, let me copy this, and then pass the current value, that is item. Okay, item. Here, if the current item is our results, that is paths array. If the current item is primitive, what we do is we simply do path dot push and then new path, whatever the path we derived here. If it's not primitive, okay, if it's not primitive, what we have to do is we should simply recursively explore deeper. Okay, for that, use spread operator to merge results from recursive call. Okay, for that, what we do is paths dot push and then use spread operator and then call this method recursively until we get primitive value. Okay, item and then pass new path. This is to fetch or to do recursive calls. Okay, now we are done with handling arrays. Okay, handle array. Now let's check objects. Now let's check objects. Else, if the object is not array, then we check for object. Okay, obj not equal to null and type of obj equals to object. Okay, and then we check for this condition. We check for this condition, and if it satisfies inside this condition, what we are going to do is we simply use for each on the keys of object. Okay, for that, what we do is object dot keys, sorry, and then pass object. For this will get all keys of object and then use for each to loop through the keys. for each, and then key. So here what we are going to do is we are going to construct new path. Again, here if we are at root level, the path is just the key. If we are nested, append key to the existing path with dot. Okay, there. Again, let's copy the current path. And then simply use current path with dot and then append key. This is when we at nested path. If we are at root level, we simply return key. Okay. Now let's check for primitive value of current key. That is whether the current key is having that, value of current key is primitive or not. For that, if simply call like this, but we should replace the item with obj of key. Okay. Now here, if it's a primitive, what we have to do is we simply push the new path to paths array. Okay. Push new path. If it's not primitive value, then what we have to do is we simply use recursive functionality and then call the get deep paths method again and then push the paths dot push. Again, same way, use spread operator and then call this get paths, for which we should pass the current item, that is object of key, and then new path. This will recursively call the method and then get the key paths for primitive values. Okay, this is about the handling objects. Okay, now let's say if it's the value which we pass to this method is neither object or nor array, then we should handle primitive values. For that, what we do is else, this is for this if. Okay, else if it's not matching either array or object, then we simply use if current path is available, we simply push that to paths array. This is to handle primitive values, primitives at root level. Okay, this is to handle primitives at root level. Okay, now we are done with our complete logic to handle arrays, objects, and then primitives. Now what we have to do is we should simply return the paths array. Okay, we should simply return the paths array. Let me close this. Okay, now we are done with our program. So this is the function to handle or to return all flattened nested key paths. Okay, flattened key paths for a given array, object, or primitives. So where we are handling arrays and then objects as well as primitives at root level. Now let me pass these two as inputs and then see the output. Okay, for that const test equals to this one. Okay, and then const test2 equals to this array. Now let me call this method, get the paths, console.log output of test, pass this, and then again similarly call the method or function again for test1 input, test2 input, test2. Now run the program and the see what is the output. Okay, we got error. So object.keys, okay, here let me check where it is. Yeah, we missed dot here. Let's run again. Okay, somewhere we missed logic. Let me check again. So for arrays, for objects, if it's object, what we are doing here is we are sorry, yeah, it should be string literal, not I mean this. We should use back this thing, not single quotes. Okay, and then in the similar way here as well, the string literals. Okay, let me run now. Okay, we got the output for this thing properly, but what about the second again? Why it's uh, second one is arrays, right? If it's array, current path. Okay, current path, and then what we are doing here is okay. Sorry, issue is with the single quotes. Okay, now let's run again. Yeah, if you see here, we got the exact desired output for both inputs. Okay, this is all about front-end interview question that was asked at Apple company. Okay, thanks for watching. If you like the video, please do like, share, and subscribe for more videos.